Welcome to another episode of the Secret Squirrels. This is Brainstorm. I am here with a few patriots to help you learn about... Oh no, I forgot to take that off. Gosh darn it. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, we have bombings going on in the world right now. Or at least fake bombs or something like that. Don't know exactly, but we're going to talk about that and the claim from the left that there's a right-wing terror problem in the country. And then we'll do a little run through history to see where the violence actually comes from. So, hello, strap yourself in, get ready for joyride or something. Some kind of ride, don't know what. How is everybody?
We're here.
Well, I've got a little bit of a sore throat and a sinus headache. My left ankle is not doing well. I twisted it, I think, the other day. I think I've got an ingrown toenail.
Boy.
But no bombs. I haven't had any bombs mailed to me today.
Well, it's fortunate, I guess.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, I guess so. Huh. Oh, not so bad. Not so bad.
John L. is saying he's all right, he guesses.
Yeah. So, stuff happens, but, it doesn't really do a whole lot of good to complain about it most times, because nobody cares anyway, because we live in a cold-hearted world.
Well, you asked.
No, hey, indeed, I did. And what do you call that? It's an expression, right? I think maybe more so than me actually wanting to know. I don't know.
I don't give a crap. Is that what the expression is?
No snowflakes here, man. We are squirrels. We're tough. We're tough squirrels. We can take it. Come on, what you got?
Not. Oh, sorry.
Well, that too. But, okay, yeah, this spider thingy here. By far, the most talked about story is the suspicious packages sent to Clinton and Obama and CNN and blah, blah, blah. All these people, even Maxine Waters received some damaging things. So, and then one of these articles, which is the weak, like extremely lefty propaganda sort of stuff. But they're claiming that America has a right-wing terrorism problem. Do you believe this? How many right-wing guys do you or people do you actually know that are terrorists? And furthermore, if there was someone that flipped their lid on the GOP side, if there was somebody out there that actually decided to take violent action, the bombs would work. Telling you.
Yeah, exactly.
They're competent. Our terrorists actually know what they're doing. We could actually cause some damage if we wanted to.
We don't wear pink pussy hats.
No.
If we're going to make bombs, we're going to make bombs.
Yeah, and we drink salsa as a beverage.
That's right.
Or, So, the pipe bombs. This is the kind of thing that's going around there. And it looks to me, at least, that this is all just, what they call a false flag operation, trying to get people confused about where the violence is really coming from. And it's not even violence, because none of the bombs are going off. Once they start, sacrificing a few of their own, then maybe that'll be something. Maybe that'll be the martyrdom thing. They become martyrs.
Someone on my Twitter page, my Twitter feed, made the comment that this is what happens when Democrats aren't ready for the midterms.
Yeah.
They make bomb threats,
Can you see desperation? These guys are so desperate because they are getting creamed. They are getting we are kicking their butts so hard that they have to pull out this kind of stuff.
I'm going to use this on Corsi's show tomorrow. This is like the kid in high school who didn't study for midterms, and he's pulling the fire alarm.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
That was a meme that I found too. That said,
really?
said exactly that. Yeah.
Really?
It's on my I'm American First page on
I honestly did
Facebook.
not see that.
Oh, here we got mention of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Who believes that Charlottesville Unite the Right was actually anything to do with the Republican Party, and who believes that it was a Soros staged event? Hmm?
Oh, is that where the KKK and the
Yeah.
Antifa?
Uh-huh.
Oh, absolutely staged. Absolutely staged. I knew that right from the start. I mean, it doesn't take. You see, here's the thing. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out the left. It doesn't. I mean, and here I want to ask you a question. I just thought of this a little bit earlier. As rich as George Soros is, do you think that just anybody can find out his address?
Right. That's exactly what I thought too. And I know that his address it's not George Soros at 975 West
Right.
34th Street. It's going to be under
Sorosville.
It's gonna be under some corporation. And when you look at that corporation, it's another corporation that owns that corporation.
And they own a whole town, most likely, and everybody in there are Satan worshippers.
And it's probably a post office box instead of, I just can't believe a pipe bomb ended up in his mailbox at his residence. And
I agree with you. I'm calling bullshit on that one too.
So, October 24th, a few days ago, seems to be before all this stuff started happening. I don't know, maybe a couple of them came out before that, but they're talking about demonstrations, rallies in the streets, this kind of stuff. They're trying to paint this picture that all the right wing are so violent, they're so scary, blah, blah, blah. We're the ones with the little self-control. But they're talking about bombs. There's this list of bombs that have gone off, apparently like in the history of America or something. I don't know. But they have a big, long list of bombs that have gone off. And one of them was this, what's the name of this? The Oklahoma City bombing, the Murrah building. We know that was an effort to cover up the Clinton scandals. All the files, check into this yourself. All the files that they had on Bill Clinton, got transferred to that building just before it blew up. Is that a coincidence? Huh?
No.
That's a heck of a coincidence.
No, you and I both know it's not. That's how the Clintons roll.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't believe in coincidences anymore.
Well, I believe in coincidences. Some things coincide. There's one thing happens and another thing happens and they happen at the same time. That's what coincidence means. They coincide. Yes, coincidental.
Well, they may coincide, but it's not by accident.
And the word that they're looking for is correlation. Are they correlated? But anyway, yeah.
Correlated roof, my shed.
Yeah, correlated. Yeah.
All right.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz. See, look, So we have no end of propaganda coming out of the left. That's kind of their business. They are disciples of Satan, and their biggest skill is to lie. They lie. That's what they do.
Well, this is Adam Schiff. I just sat there and you and I talked about this last night, brainstorm, with him sitting there saying how this refugee crisis was just he was trying to turn it around on us on the right and saying it's our fault, and that's what they're doing now.
Yeah,
they're saying that this is done on the right.
Yeah,
wait, what?
Yeah, that's because it all backfired on them. They see this big wave of immigrants coming up, and all the Americans are suddenly decided, hey, you know what? Maybe the border wall is a good idea. And that's when all the lefties start realizing that this was not the right play for them to make. And now they're blaming Trump. Trump is the one that paid for this. He's the one that got these guys to come up here just so that you would want that wall.
Are you kidding?
This is what Adam Schiff said.
My God.
They are not poor refugees desperate to flee violence in Central America. They were sent by Democrats and George Soros. They are murderers, gang members, and Middle Easterners. They are right at our door and pose a dire threat. And then he replied to himself and said, yes, I was being sarcastic, but if my previous tweet was too convoluted, let me be crystal clear. Those are but a few of the most egregious lies being told about those fleeing violence and risking everything to come and seek a better life. Trump merely seeks to exploit their desperation. He was drinking way too much last night, and somebody in the Schiff household needs to lock up the liquor cabinet.
Oh,
well, the left does not understand, well, at least the leadership, we'll call them the cabal, because some of them are on the right, and they're rhinos, and they're the neocons. They don't understand sarcasm because they tell lies. That's, I mean, the Hillary Clinton's thing where there's some things you say in private and some things you say in public, and they're not the same thing. That's called lying, people. You know, right? Most people call that lying, you know, but she just thinks that's just the way things are done. But anyway, I wanted to go into a little bit of the history of the violence on the left. And, you know, because people are being educated in the left's school systems, they don't learn any history. So we could look into Students for a Democratic Society. I thought that would be a pretty good place to start. And this is just a Wikipedia article, so it's not definitive, just a place to start, right? SDS. Who is the SDS? When did they come about?
I thought I had an SDS once in the Marine Corps, but thank God it was just
TMI.
Did you get, anyway. Yeah. And by the way, if you hear some crunching going on in the background, it's me eating bacon. Because bacon, you know, and that's the requirement. If you want to come and hang out with the squirrels, we have to see you eating bacon. That's how we know you're okay.
I've got a double-decker cheeseburger. Does that count?
No, it's got to have pork on it. Pork.
Guys, I had pork chops, actually.
There you go.
Yep. You're making me hungry again. What the heck?
Yeah, man. So, formation, 1960 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Left-wing student activists. Okay. It goes back even further, of course, but this is where it actually starts infusing the Democratic Party. The Students for Democratic Society. It's just commies. It's just commies. I mean, don't sugarcoat it. But anyway, socialist educational organization known as the League for the Industrial Democracy. What the hell is that? Well, it's probably Maoism, frankly.
Well, industrial democracy, I think of Russia right away.
Well, I think it's actually Maoism because, I mean, that was part of his whole thing with the Cultural Revolution. Let's look at the Cultural Revolution. That was 1966 to 76, launched by Mao Zedong. That's the time where they're trying to go straight into an industrial world, and they want to bypass all of the developmental stages between, you know, the agricultural economy to an industrial economy. And so they wanted to simultaneously strip them of all of their traditional religious system and their values and things like that and lead them straight into atheism. And, you know, politics is your god now. The party is your god. And so Maoism obviously is just a particular form of communism. And I would eventually like to know those subtle differences, but the point is that the Maoists are seeming to be who the SDS are leaning towards. Not for sure about that, but also this New School for Social Research, if you've ever heard of that. That's Frankfurt School, you know, so that was in Frankfurt, and another famous person from Frankfurt is one of the Rothschilds family. That's where the Rothschilds started all of their huge empire. Just happenstance, coincidence, another one of those things.
Oh, wait a minute. What's coincidence? Huh? What?
That's what it is. Coincides. It coincides. And it's an accident. No correlation whatsoever that the Frankfurt School comes out of the same city where the Rothschild banking empire got its start. There's no correlation there whatsoever. So anyway, New School for Social Research. Once the Nazis started gaining power, supposedly, I mean, at least this is the way that the story is told, that's when the German intellectuals, many of whom were Jewish, had to leave Germany and go to America. At least it's a nice excuse. Because then they went to Columbia University in New York, and they started the school called the New School for Social Research, an educational institution designed to take over America by way of the Democratic Party. So that's where it really starts. Yeah.
Communism.
Well, it's all a form of communism. I mean, whatever. But these are the guys that are specifically trying to take over the university system. These are the ones that are trying to take over what they call the culture industry or something like that. I can't remember the phrase that they use, but
Hollywood.
Yes, but also the university itself. The university becomes the primary target here because the university is how we preserve our collected wisdom in the form of a cultural.
Indoctrinate kids.
Exactly. And I was going to say that indoctrination.
Yeah,
centers.
so they're trying to replace education with indoctrination. So now indoctrination instead of being educated. You can't think for yourself anymore. Now it's a matter of regurgitating whatever the teacher tells you to believe, especially regarding the political system and history, the historical context in which these things happen. Anyway, so the New School also, this is their website, the New School for Social Research. It's progressive scholarship. This is a study with leading scholars and public intellectuals committed to expanding the boundaries of social thought. One of the world's hubs of scholarship and culture, New York City. That's where all the hardcore commies, that's where they go. That's where you make commies. They breed them there.
Isn't that also a school where you send your son and you get a daughter back? Just saying.
Well, yeah, I suppose that does happen there, but it's not. I wouldn't think that would be the primary thing to be worried about. I mean, they do many worse things.
They've got a lot of other problems.
Yeah, they got worse problems on their hands than just having gender confusion, gender identity disorder. Anyway, that's that. Enough of that. New Left. Here's some notes from the SDS. This is a newspaper called New Left Notes. Look at it. Printed January 21, 1966. Some of these guys are advocating for violence because they see, capitalism as the imperialism. That's their rationalization. That's why they're advocating violence, is because they believe that capitalism is intrinsically imperialistic and going there to enslave the poor third world, and make them all slaves. Even though you trace the cabal back far enough, that they come from the slave trade. They're the ones that were doing the slave trade. They're the ones that were buying and selling slaves. Anyway, they repackage that. Who needs the truth when you can spin it around and blame the Republicans for it? Right.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
It's easier doing that. Then you get your way, or you think you get your way.
Then you have all those useful idiots that will side with you and not look into it. They'll just say, "Oh, well, these are the good guys."
But he said,
"Yeah." So we have stuff like the Black Panther Party that rise up in that time period. Huey Newton, bombers. They bomb things, make things blow up. Boom, 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 boom. And there's revolutionary socialism. Oh, what is that? The socialist doctrine that social revolution is necessary in order to bring about structural changes to society. More specifically, it is the view that revolution is a necessary precondition for a transition from capitalism to socialism. War. They say war is necessary. They want to go to communism, but they think that you can't actually get there if you don't start with war. So they're a very violent group of people. So how is it that they can manage to have this history? We know about it. Here it is, Wikipedia. It's not hidden. It's in plain sight. There's a history of the violence on the left, and yet the mainstream media puts it out there that says we have a right-wing terrorist problem. Yeah. It's interesting, huh?
We know why.
But this is the problem that I see with them doing this, is they say we have a right-wing terrorist problem, and then they go after people like Clive Bundy or some of these other people that just want to be left alone, and call them the terrorists. And well, wait a second. When you delve deeply into what's going on, you find out that everything's not all on the up and up. Nothing's what they say it is. And that's my worry about some of these things, is that somebody is going to get blamed for it that doesn't deserve it.
Absolutely. And I'm making this prediction right now, and I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm going to make this prediction right now. someone will end up dead,
Right.
and they will magically find all kinds of MAGA hats and write rhetoric in his apartment, and
Right. And he was
you
part of
know
some kind of militia.
yeah, it's I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm making this prediction that it probably will within
Right.
the next week. Within the next week, it has to for them
Yep.
to carry that
Oh, I'll
narrative.
back you up on that. I have to agree with you on that,
So I
unfortunately.
have this blog that I found called 1960's Days of Rage. And this particular post is called Decolonizing Society, the Legacy of 1968. You know, that whole decolonizing thing, that's the lefty verbiage. That's the kind of thing that you look for when you're trying to figure out where the propaganda is going to be coming from. And there's one sentence in here that is a run-on sentence. But in the United States, the 1968 occupation of Columbia University by the Students for a Democratic Society was, within 2 years, replicated across the country as over 4 million students, joined by 350,000 faculty in over 800 universities, went on strike, taking over university buildings and burning down Army recruitment offices. This is the moment in our history when we lost the university. We lost the institution with which we were supposed to preserve our cultural values.
Higher learning.
Yeah, higher learning is lost to us as of this point, 1968. That's when we lost the university.
John L. says, so George Soros is or was even a Columbia University trustee.
Imagine that. Of course, he's pretty much a trustee about everything. I mean, he owns so much stuff. He's on every board, you know. Okay, but there's this guy, Alan Bloom, and he's known for other things. But there's this particular book. It's called The Closing of the American Mind. This was really big in the 80s, and I love this book. So he's an academic trying to explain, well, you know, what happened? How did the university go sideways? You know, and we got this. So Dr. Corsi's talking about, you know, in his new audiobook, he's talking about how the Democrats went left. And I'm doing that. I'm trying to do that too. But I'm focusing more specifically on, you know, like all this alt media that we have, that in general, alt media is going after the mainstream media. And we need to do that. But there's already so many different channels out there doing that. I'm thinking that we need to start attacking the university, because that's even though it doesn't have the immediate impact, that's the long range. I mean, the long-term destruction of our culture is kind of in the university system. In this particular book, The Closing of the American Mind, it's a description. Alan Bloom is trying to talk about some of this, and it's his impression, but it was very popular. Copyright 1987, so late 80s. This came out, and it was a huge hit. Even it was to the extent that even the lefties are trying to parse this book. They want to know what this book is about, because it made that big of an impact. Even today, it's still fairly influential. But he goes through. So he's got the German connection, the two revolution states of nature, the self. So different concepts of human nature, different concepts as to the nature of reality, and you know what nature is, and then so this other one, the Nietzscheanization of the left, or vice versa, because Nietzsche himself, if you look at the genealogy of morals, is very clear about what he's talking about, and he's talking about the bad guys, and somehow they flipped it around on his head and then make it sound like he's talking backwards of what he is. But anyway,
that's how they work.
Yeah, they flip everything upside down, around, and backwards, and that's what Marx did to Hegel. Same thing, because you know, and I'm of the opinion that we have to go back to 19th century scholarship if we want to get back to some thoroughgoing sanity on our educational system. We have to start, at least on the intellectual level, with the 19th century, because 20th century hits, we go all sorts of crazy. The intellectual world after the 20th century is just nuts. So that's my opinion. Anyway, check out this book. It's free on the Internet Archives. You should look it up there. Just do a search using DuckDuckGo, not Google. But so get on your DuckDuckGo, look for.
Okay, and what was the name again?
The Closing of the American Mind. Just put that in quotes, and then type in Internet Archive. And that will give you this book. It's a free book because it's on the archives. It's very influential, very good read. I mean, some things about it, he gets on some weird trips. But by and large, it's a pretty good read. And it explains a lot about what's going on in the world of higher ed. Gives you some history lessons on that, how we got screwed over. And we lost our center. By losing the universities, we've lost our center. And that's why they can get away with having the weird stuff coming out of Hollywood and mainstream media, because we don't have anybody left to challenge them. That's
and incestuous
relationships.
And so, like in the short term, we do have to do something about the mainstream media. But our longer term project is going to be trying to retake the institutions like the universities. That's going to take serious long term work, hard work, to try to get our universities back. And we need to do it.
Yeah, we do.
So, okay, what else do we have here? Covered the Cultural Revolution a little bit. Maoism, just Chinese stuff. I don't want to go into that too much. Here's a video I found.
The SDS ended its 7th annual convention yesterday in Chicago and accomplished little beyond a deep and bitter split between two factions, the so-called regulars and the Progressive Labor Group, which follows the teachings of Chairman Mao. NBC News correspondent Bill Matney reports.
SDS has always prided itself as a loose organization, which possibly explains why its convention ended in confusion with nothing settled. The SDS regulars caucused over the weekend and expelled the rival Progressive Labor faction. This group is pro-Maoist and prefers revolutionizing labor to campus and street demonstrations. Yesterday, each group met separately and elected national officers. Today, the factions held separate news conferences, and from what was said, it was difficult to tell one side from the other.
Last night, a minority group faction of the Students for...
All right, so that's enough of that. So it's just, we don't have the memory to go back what was going on. I mean, we find these things on YouTube. Find your, the way that before the effects really reached the American public, or we were really dumbed down to that degree. The average citizen was more well educated, and but we've lost our schools. I mean, it starts with the university, right. And that's they're the ones that train the primary, secondary teachers. And so since the left owns the colleges, that means that they're the ones that get pass the credentials out. If you don't have the credentials, you're not taken seriously in the society, and you're not going to get the credentials to be a teacher. And so you have to be indoctrinated by a leftist to even become a teacher. So primary, secondary,
anything.
Yeah. And so then,
not a truck driver.
But then, but all of our teachers, the ones teaching our kids, they got their credentials by these institutions that are largely left, extreme left people. The professors are they're revolutionaries. So
they're idiots.
Well, you have to be clever to deceive yourself that far.
As smart as they are, they're idiots. My opinion.
Okay. What else do we want to talk about here? Did the SDS thing. But here's the anti-fascist thing. We've heard about Antifa. That's actually it started, the symbolism that they use on their flag, the Antifa movement, is actually started in as a communist party in Nazi Germany. But there's a couple different forms of anti-fascists, and depending on how you define what fascism is, I mean, there's really no consensus on what fascism even is. I mean, the first use of fascism was under Mussolini, so maybe that would be definitive of what fascism is, so therefore what anti-fascism is. But anyway, you got different people defining fascism in different ways, and therefore when they are describing themselves as anti-fascist, then they have slightly different objectives. But a lot of them are perfectly willing to be violent. So these Antifa people with the black masks, what do they call it? They say black something. They call it that. It's a European thing, and they're perfectly willing to be violent because they view
this needs to be known. People need to understand that Antifa is a break off of the Weather Underground that we had in the 1970s. Bill Ayers is associated with these people. I've gone through their website, and yes, he is associated. He is one of the founding people that have been fueling this, and we probably ought to go a little bit into Bill Ayers and his escapades. Just saying.
Yeah, and the SDS was also, they ended up being like, they kind of made Chicago their home turf, and guess who came out of Chicago?
Yep.
Bummer.
Oh, bummer.
And so did Bill Ayers too.
Yep. Chicago will be, for some reason they picked Chicago as like a center of this.
And so did Hillary Clinton.
And I mean, all those and that stuff goes all the way back to the mob, and the Prohibition days with when they were running liquor and stuff, Oh boy, black shirts. Okay.
We just launch these guys into space and be done with it.
Yeah, you're depressing me.
We have to understand this stuff.
Send myself a pipe bomb.
We have to know where they're coming from if we're going to hope to fight them. We have to know who they are. And I think a lot of the foot soldiers that kind of get wound up in this stuff and they just kind of drink the Kool-Aid, they don't know what's going on. And maybe if we're equipped to teach them what these groups are, to talk about it, then maybe we can talk them out of it. Maybe it's like, do you even know what you're fighting for? Do you understand what you're fighting for? You're fighting for violence. I mean, it's like, anyway.
But how many people are successfully talked off the edge of a building?
Sometimes.
And that's what I'm this is the equivalent to me. We're talking about people that are on the edge of a building that we've got to talk down, and some of them are just so way out there, they're not going to listen. But anyway,
yeah, but it's worth the effort. I mean, we have to try. You have to give your best effort. Give it a shot.
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
One would hope, but I don't know.
Saul Alinsky, Herbert Marcuse's been. Let's see, who else is in here I recognize? They got this neo-Marxism. What the heck is neo-Marxism?
Bill Ayers,
Noam Chomsky. That's one of their.
I remember them.
Noam Chomsky's one of their favorite guys. That's about manufacturing consent. That actually came from Edward Bernays guy. He's the one that was talking about how in his book on propaganda. That's actually what he was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ironic or something that you'd have, the darling of the left, Noam Chomsky, that he's acting like, these damn capitalists are manufacturing consent when it's their side that's manufacturing. It's their side that's doing this mind control business. They're the ones doing it. They're the ones that gave the idea to Hitler, and they thought, Goebbels.
People that are following these people need to understand that these people are violent. They're crazy. And if you get in their way, they don't care. They'll take you out.
You know what they say?
You'll end up getting suicide. You'll end up killing yourself in your Honda with 2 bullets to the back of your head.
Well, these groups in Europe, they actually say liberals get the bullet too. That's the way they put it. These extreme lefties, because they actually use the word liberal in the proper way over there. But so they say liberals get the bullet too.
Yeah.
Because they don't want liberals, they want commies. If you're not a commie, then you're dead. And they're willing to use whatever violence and any means necessary to make it happen.
I grew up in California in the 60s, in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles area. And it amazes me because when I talk to people out that had no idea what went on, I remember as a kid just driving down the street and seeing these people. They don't care. They don't care if they're going to kill your mother, or they don't care about you. You go into a grocery store, if you do not listen to their propaganda, they don't care. They're bound and determined to shove it down your throat. And people have no idea how bad these people really are. And you really need to look into this history. You really need to scrutinize these people. Bill Ayers is not a friend to anyone, and how he was let out of prison is beyond me. Anyone else that was involved with
he's probably got friends in low places. That's
well, Obama. Need we go more further? Yeah.
Well, they're all tied together with the mafia and the Vatican and
right.
Blah blah blah. Here's where we really get some information. Here we got the philosophical tradition. This is the intellectual underpinnings of what the New Left is about. They've used a lot of different traditional philosophers. Oftentimes, you get somebody like Nietzsche that they flip them upside and down and backwards, or But then you get people like Walter Benjamin. That's definitely he's lefty from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And some of this stuff you can trace to like Goethe and the Romantics and stuff like that. So he's the guy that wrote one of the versions of Faust. Let's look up Faust real quick. Faust tradition.
Goethe also, people need to keep in mind, he was severely depressed, if I'm recalling my German studies correctly. And it's been many, many years, and I apologize. And I think that when looking at some of these things, you probably need to take in the background of these people when you're considering where they're coming from. I mean, it's just a thought.
Well, Faust is basically a story about a guy that sells his soul to the devil for the benefit for knowledge. So here's the plot. Demon Mephisto has a bet with an archangel that he can corrupt a righteous man's soul and destroy in him what is divine. If he succeeds, the devil will win dominion over earth. That's the kind of tradition. I mean, for us, it's just like a, maybe we'll call it a moral, the moral story or whatever.
Yeah, an allegory.
Yeah, but for them, it's like, oh, this is what you do. You sell your soul to the devil, because that's
they take it literally instead of taking it as a lesson learned.
But how do we even know this tradition? We don't know that maybe that was the original intent of these authors. Maybe that's what they were trying to do. That's how they.
Like I said, I know Goethe had some mental health issues, serious mental health issues. Like I said, from my recollection. And like I said, it's been 30 years, so I apologize. But, you need to take into consideration some of these people's background. And
but as far as I know, this is like that original story of making a deal with the devil. Sort of feel like the blues guitar player that meets the devil at the crossroads. This is that kind of story.
The devil that went down to Georgia.
So this is, and it's been
for a soul to steal.
It's been retold, and Goethe's edition is probably the most famous as far as I don't know. I don't do fiction very much, but
well, Goethe I read, but like I said, it's been so long that I've forgotten it, and I apologize because that was part of my courses in school. But it was just stuff. I always just took it as an allegory. It's just something that this is what happens, when you follow some of these things. But if this is being taught as doctrine, that's kind of.
Yeah, well, I think it. I guess I took it as like this thing that says you shouldn't sell your soul for the sake of knowledge or for the sake of anything. That you should always value your soul above all. But then what happens is, the devil made this bet with an archangel, and the devil won because he appealed to their ego or their greed or whatever it is.
Right.
Anyway. So enough of that. What's chat doing? Anybody talking in chat?
Well, Randall Knapp was saying an 80-year-old cab driver ended up dead dropping the Clintons at a house in the Spa City in 86, I believe. Interesting story. You should research it. He goes on to say, Clintons are like the devil. If you don't fear them, they cannot hurt you. God's love, y'all.
Except they give you that double bullet to the back of the head and call it suicide.
Right. You know.
Or else they do a double hanging and they call it a suicide murder pact.
Right.
Like the people up there, there's some, who is it? There was a doctor and his wife up in Canada that were consultants or something in Haiti, and they ended up doing this double hanging. Did you hear about that?
No, but there was also there was someone that I know that was doing research into what they were doing in Haiti and went down there, and she ended up missing and never showing up again. Nobody knows what happened to her. She's just vanished. And she's been gone now for about 2, maybe 3 years. You know, that's sad because everything that happens around them, people end up dead or vanished.
Oops. Slipped.
You know, and and then when we start going into some of these other things that they do, we've got these bombings. Do they really think we're that dumb?
Yes. And they've been right for however many generations, ever since JFK. They've been right.
I don't think we've been dumb, but we've been way too silent, and we have not.
Well, not dumb may be the wrong word. Naive is the word. We've been naive. We've trusted our government, and now it's time that we don't.
Fire Sessions said, some go through the motions of selling their soul to the devil, but do not really know what they are actually getting into.
Yeah, they don't.
When they pass, they'll discover they made a big mistake. Lesson learned.
Yeah, they probably don't actually believe in the devil, so they think it's a bunch of nonsense. But then the collection happens.
This is why it's so important for them to eradicate religion and a god. Because then it's easier to say, well, see, there's no devil, so what harm is there?
Right.
You know, we have this other thing over here, and it'll help you.
So Satan convinces you that there's no such thing as religion. It's all just a bunch of hooey. And then you make these deals with the devil because you don't believe the devil's real.
Right.
And then
you're snookered into a deal that's probably going to cost you for eternity. I mean, it's a thought. Raymond Knapp says, I cannot wait until his name comes off the airport, Presidential Library, Hope and Hot Springs landmarks. The Clintons are about to be vanished themselves. Gitmo is a rather swanky these days.
Yes, I heard that too. Well, there's also a rumor about like being a second Gitmo. Does anybody figure out where the second Gitmo is?
Yeah, actually, I was following some people for a while, and they're saying it's down in the Azores.
What is that? What is the Azores?
The Azores, there's some islands in the Atlantic Ocean. It's like smack dab in the middle of South America and Africa. And they said that there's been some unusual activity there. So I'm wondering if that's one of them, you know. That's one of the thoughts. So
is it owned by Portugal?
We have a base. The United States has a base on there. I do know because Josh's father's family lived in the Azores for many years.
Well, that's way out there. That's practically to Africa.
Yeah. There's no way on and no way off.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah, right. They said that it's an awful lot of activity, a lot of land reclamation going on. They said it's just They said it's been busy. So that's what I was told.
I'm doing a little search right here, see what I can find there. I don't know. What's the like real name for Guantanamo Bay? I mean, in terms of its duty, what do you call it?
Guantanamo Bay?
Yeah, but what is the actual base called?
Oh God, I don't know. We'll have to look that up. Let me look. Guantanamo Bay Naval Base. Base Naval de la Bahia de Guantanamo. Or NSGB. According to Wikipedia. They have an Army base too, and an Air Force base. GTMO is the Airfield Designation Code, or GITMO is a common pronunciation of the code by the military. But it's Guantanamo.
That's the Azores military, United States Air Force.
Yeah, I'm looking on the Navy site too. It's Naval Station Guantanamo Bay.
This website says it was inactivated in 2004. Maybe they reactivated it.
Yeah, Russ says he wants us to. Oh, he put something in here for Guantanamo. He says when it comes he's got an article for military.com. And it says when it comes to Guantanamo, Trump, and I'm waiting for it to load. The Trump administration has put more than $200 million in new construction teed up for Guantanamo this year and next, combining the funding in the $1.3 trillion spending bill and existing projects. The biggest ticket item for the U.S. Navy base in Cuba in the so-called omnibus spending bill is $115 million for a new 848 troop barracks across the street from the McDonald's and a commissary to consolidate enlisted prison staff under one roof. So thanks, Russ.
So it seems like starting in the beginning of October, we've got something called Clear Sky exercise, and that kind of rings some bells. Triton Juncture also. Triton Juncture is a military operation. I think it starts about now, and it goes until November 7th. That's going to be up around Norway.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that were keeping an eye on some of the flights that were going on around the world, and that was quite illuminating, to be honest with you. I did that for a little bit. It was very interesting to see what was going on.
Was it fun?
I guess.
I guess.
It's just interesting to see. It's like, what? Wait, what are they doing? So, and John L., I am trying to get you the coordinates for that. My Google Earth is slow as molasses and starting today. But anyway, so we were going to talk about Randall Knapp is saying now Q is MIA again. 20 days went incognito before. I don't buy the mother QUOOSC stories. Sorry, Squirrels.
What, I don't know why he's apologizing to us. What?
Huh? Raymond, what do you mean by that?
Why are you apologizing to us?
Yeah. You know, Randall, I don't know what to think of Q. I think he's good for morale, to be quite honest with you. But I have a lot of issues with him myself.
Him, them,
whomever it is.
It says here, Guantanamo has not received any new inmates since 2008. 40 remain. When was this written? Oh, that's October 17th article. Of course, that's, I don't know. Here's another one. U.S. announces largest single transfer in Guantanamo detainees. That's 2016. Transfer to the UAE. Ah. Oh, that was under Obama. That's interesting, though. Can't find anything. I don't know what to look for here. Military prisons. So they're going through history. List of U.S. military prisons.
John L., the Azores is just right off of Portugal, in the middle of, it's not at the tip, kind of up towards the northern end of Africa. I'm trying to get a screenshot or something. But
got U.S. Army military. It's Fort Leavenworth, and then we have Fort Leavenworth, Fort Lewis, and then U.S. Navy. We have Charleston in South Carolina, North Hamptons Roads, Chesapeake, Virginia, San Diego, 7th Fleet military bases, U.S. Army. How the heck are we supposed to figure it out with all this list? The United States Navy's got a bunch of them all over the world. Got Florida, Virginia, Spain, Hawaii, Washington, Illinois. Yeah, look at that.
Detention facilities. This is interesting.
They got pretrial confinement facilities. A float brigs. Oh, a brig is just yeah, that's nothing. I don't know where they're going to do. Which is what is that list of indictments up to like 50,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood, right?
Let me look at my Google Docs because I do believe I have it. Sure. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know where to look. If anybody out there in the audience knows about the new spillover prison, if whatever is going to go on bigger than the Guantanamo Bay, let us know. I don't know how to find any information on that beyond just what the rumors are. I'll even say rumors. Guantanamo Bay site.
Oh, my sealed indictments has just gone crazy. Holy cow, they've been adding file after file after file. Here we go. The last one I've got. Let's see. This is almost a year ago, unfortunately. They've got over 18,000.
Well, I guess we'll just have to cover this another time because we're about out of time now. We got this one more story with Camp Delta, Guantanamo Bay. Mass arrest rumors. This is from January. Is Guantanamo receiving high-level American prisoners? The following is a compilation of alternative and mainstream media articles suggesting that that Guantanamo Bay might be being repurposed for holding elite prisoners, specifically members of the so-called cabal. I cannot confirm if all the rumors are true, although some of the articles cited in support of this theory are from the mainstream media. The Arizona National Guard is deployed to help with Gitmo. It doesn't say about any, what's the second site? I don't know what the second site might be.
Well, like I said, people had they had noticed a lot of unusual activity near the Azores. And that was, that was one of the supposed sites that they were speculating that's where it could be. So,
well, could be. I don't know. I don't know. How we're going to find any validation for this verification.
Yeah. And then back to these bombings. I'm worried about who the left is going to put up for the sacrificial lamb. And the thing is it looks like, according to the Gateway Pundit, that now a whole bunch of innocent people on the right, they're making death threats.
I wouldn't mind it if Soros became their martyr. Go ahead and make him a martyr. I don't mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't mind him either.
I mean, he's just an innocent guy, right?
Right? Like I said, I'm looking at...
He's a philanthropist, according to mainstream media.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's hilarious after what Maxine Waters said about going and doing what she wants the left to do to people, and she gets a package. It really, you expect us to believe that?
She's talking from her McMansion, and you should feel sorry for her.
Russ Wickstrom is saying 45,000 indictments as of 9/4/2018. I was going to go on to pacer.gov and do a current search, but I don't have time right now just to do that. Because you can pull it up for yourselves. But we've got a serious problem. And I just, everybody out there that's listening to this, I'm begging you, vote red. We cannot afford to have one Democrat in office because they're dismantling our country piece by piece.
You know,
and they're taking away our freedoms.
The way it looks to me, you got this. It seems to me. I mean, think about this. Collect all the pieces fitting together. You have all this information that's coming out. You know, back channel stuff that we're getting, and then you have the Soros voter machines are probably going down because of that executive order. I mean, there's a couple of executive orders actually designed to help with voter fraud. And then there's that rumor I heard about ICE officials at the polling stations. That, you know, any illegal alien shows up to vote and they get busted. That would be cool. You know, you get what else is it? No more dead voters. You know, right. If all this stuff stacks up, we're going to win midterms by a landslide anyway. Even if the FISA warrant application is not unredacted at that point. So if we win anyway, especially if it's by a landslide, and then we get this information coming out, it says, oh, well, guess what? The reason why this happened is because, well, we're not doing any rigging anymore. Right. Not to mention that, you know, Bernie could have been your nominee if you're a Democrat, but the DNC is corrupt as hell, and they killed, you know, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, probably the one that ordered the hit on Seth Rich when he told WikiLeaks about it. So hopefully once midterms happens, you're going to have this landslide of information come out. Hopefully that's the point in time that's like, then we can just let things loose and the information starts flowing. I'd really like to see the MSM go down, that's for sure. I
would too. You know, I think that we're on the verge of a paradigm shift that I am wondering if this is going to be unparalleled in history. Only time will tell, but it just it floors me at how much has been hidden from us, how much we've been lied to, how much corruption, and it's mind-boggling to me.
It's only a couple more weeks away. It's just the last couple of weeks. I'm hoping. It's like,
and I think even with the FISA warrants don't get dropped, I think everybody's just so sick of it.
So today is Wednesday, right? So it's 1 day shy of 2 weeks from now is the election day. So this day, 2 weeks from now, Wednesday, 2 weeks from now, maybe that's the day we start seeing all this FISA warrant memo, whatever stuff coming out. There's like, who knows how many documents that Trump's going to be declassifying. And that's when we're going to be singing in the streets.
Well, and I really hope something happens to little Rosie Steen. You know, he's such a smug little bad word.
Bleep, bleep. Exactly. We don't use bad words here. We're a family show.
I'd love to be the one to wipe that smile off of his perennially smiling little smug face. You know,
you're not violent, are you? Are you saying that the left is right?
I can do it without violence. I can do it without violence. You know.
You're not making any bombs in your basement, are you? Are you the one that's out there like getting Soros and Maxine Waters?
I'm too poor to do that.
We can't afford it. You know, we got too many Democrats running the show yet.
Right.
You got to get out there and vote those Democrats out so we can afford to make pot bombs. Something like that. I don't know.
I'm so tired of this I'm tired of them keeping us down. I'm tired of them stripping us bit by bit, slow torture of our rights and our freedoms. And I want to be the one that hands Rosenstein his marching orders for Gitmo. I would love that.
We got ramen noodle bombs. Excellent. So, hey.
I do like the ramen noodle bombs. There we go.
We're gonna slime you. But hey, guys, it was a great time. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for stopping by.